It's late at night. The fire has burned down to glowing embers. Around it, faces lean in, half lit, half in shadow. An old voice begins to speak about a hunter who walked into the dark forest, about the beast that waited there, about the moment everything could have ended. And though you are sitting there, safe, warm, fed, your heart begins to race. You lean in too. That moment is older than cities, older than writing, older than almost anything you call human. And tonight, you're going to see why your brain still does this, why it reaches for heroes, why it hunts for villains, why a good story can grip you harder than your own real life. There's a reason a stranger's tale can make you cry, and a reason this same instinct quietly shapes how you see the people around you every single day. But to understand that, we have to go back to the fire, and we have to ask a strange question. Why did your ancestors survive better? Because they loved stories at all. Picture the world they lived in. No maps, no books, no way to look anything up. The only knowledge that existed was the knowledge inside living minds. And that knowledge died when those minds died, unless it was passed on. So how do you pass on what matters most? Which plants will kill you? Which animals hunt at dusk? Which river floods without warning? Which stranger smiled before he betrayed the tribe? You could try to list these facts one by one, but a tired brain forgets lists. A frightened brain forgets warnings. What the brain does not forget is a story. So the elders didn't say, avoid the eastern valley in the dry season. They said, once a brave young man went east when the rivers were low. He was strong and clever, but he was proud, and the valley swallowed him whole. Now there's a hero. Now there's a flaw. Now there's a villain, even if the villain is just a valley or pride itself. And suddenly the warning isn't a fact, it's a feeling. It lodges in you. You remember it because part of you lived it. Around those fires, the people who could tell stories and the people who could feel them had an edge. They learned faster. They cooperated better. They knew who to trust before trust could get them killed. Stories were not entertainment. Stories were survival software, written in characters instead of code. And so your brain, over countless generations, was shaped to do something remarkable. It became a machine for turning the world into characters. Here's what that means. Your ancestors lived in a world where the most dangerous thing and the most valuable thing was other people. A friendly face could share food. A hidden enemy could end your line. So the brain became obsessed with one question above all others. Who is good and who is a threat? To answer that quickly, the mind learned to simplify. It didn't have time to study every person as a complex blend of light and shadow. It needed fast labels. Ally, enemy, us, them, hero, villain. This is why even now you find pure complexity exhausting and pure clarity thrilling. A story where everyone is a little good and a little bad feels uncomfortable, unfinished. But a story with a clear hero to root for and a clear villain to hate, that one slides into your mind like a key into a lock, because that's the shape your brain was built to hold. There's something else here, and this is the loop I opened at the start. When you watch a hero face danger, your brain doesn't fully understand that it isn't you. Deep down, in the older layers of the mind, watching and doing blur together. Your ancestors who could mentally rehearse a hunt by hearing about one survived better than those who had to learn everything firsthand. So your brain treats a story as practice, as a simulation. You feel the hero's fear because, in a sense, you are running their danger through your own nervous system, learning for free without ever risking your life. That's why a story can leave you breathless in a safe room. Your body believes it's rehearsing something real. Now, let's come into the present, because this ancient program never switched off. It just found new things to run on. Think about how you talk about your own life. The difficult coworker becomes a villain in your private story. The friend who let you down becomes a betrayer, flattened into a single bad act. The leader you admire becomes a hero who can do no wrong. Your brain is doing what it always did, sorting messy humans into clean characters, because clean characters are easier to track and easier to survive. Notice it in the news, too. Every story is shaped into heroes and villains, because that shape grabs you and won't let go. You feel pulled to keep watching, keep scrolling, keep finding out who the bad guy is and whether they'll be stopped. Your brain is reacting as if these are members of your own tribe, whose loyalty decides whether you live or die, even though most of them you will never meet, and their drama changes nothing about your evening. Notice it in how easily you can hate someone you've never spoken to, simply because a story framed them as the enemy, and how quickly you'll forgive someone cast as the hero, even when they shouldn't be forgiven. That isn't weakness. That's a survival instinct, built for small tribes running loose in a world of billions. And notice it inside yourself. Sometimes you cast yourself as the hero, the one who's right, who's wronged, who's misunderstood. And sometimes, in your darkest moments, you cast yourself as the villain of your own story, replaying your failures as if you were the monster in someone else's tale. Your brain is reacting as if every action defines whether you belong or get cast out of the tribe, even though no one is watching as closely as you fear. So what do you do with a mind like this? You can't turn it off. You wouldn't want to. The same instinct that distorts your view of people is the same one that lets a film move you to tears, that lets you feel a stranger's life as your own. That gift and that flaw are the same wiring. But you can learn to see the story being written. When someone becomes a pure villain in your mind, pause and ask, what part of them did I delete to make them this simple? When you feel yourself worshipping a hero, ask, what flaws am I refusing to see? You don't have to abandon the story, you just have to remember it is a story, a draft, not a verdict. And when you turn that villain's gaze on yourself, remember this. The brain that's judging you so harshly is the same brain that once kept your ancestors alive by making them terrified of being cast out. It's not telling you the truth about who you are, it's telling you an old fear dressed up as a fact. Try this. The next time someone or something grips you with that hero or villain pull, notice the grip itself. Feel how ancient it is. That little distance between the feeling and you watching the feeling is the beginning of freedom. Because here is the truth your firelit ancestors couldn't have known. The world was never really made of heroes and villains. It was made of people, frightened and hungry and trying to survive, just like you. The clean story was a tool, a torch in the dark. It helped them see, but it also threw long shadows. And sometimes those shadows fell on the innocent. You carry that torch still. Every time you love a hero, fear a villain, or cast yourself as either, you are sitting at that ancient fire, listening to a voice in the dark, learning how to stay alive. The trick now is to keep the warmth of the story and gently set down the certainty, because the heroes and villains were never out there. They were always a way of seeing. And once you understand that, you start to glimpse something the old fire could never show you. The quiet, complicated human standing just beyond the light. There are other ancient programs still running in you. The loneliness that strikes hardest at night. The cravings that never seem satisfied. The strange pull of belonging. But those are fires for other nights. For now, just remember, when the story grips you, that's not your failure. That's 10,000 years of survival still whispering by the embers.